My name is Nick the Wonder Hernandez. I did the sound for Long Way Down at the Kennedy Center. I'm a hip hop master splinter. Far from a rat, I got the boom baps. These are just facts. Sit back and relax as we toe tap to the sound I designed. Now I freestyle and tell you without rhyme. Long Way Down is a story about Will, a teenager who lives in his building and he has 60 seconds from the top floor to the lobby to decide whether he wants to avenge his brother's death. Working on theater, you're working with the script, and a lot of times it's about interpretation. So reading it and trying to evoke those same feelings off the page and then working with the actor. So there is a difference, I think, with music. You feel it more, literally. Jason Reynolds, huge hip hop fan. When I talked to him before, he was excited that I was on the project just because my background is in hip hop and soul. So I was very excited because I knew he was a fan of Notorious Big and Tupac, and they're referenced several times in the story as well. So I wanted to make sure for those who knew those artists, definitely got a feel for them, as well as those who have never heard of them before were still comfortable when they came to go see the show. So I myself, I love vinyl records. I was able to get a lot of inspiration listening to the originals that were used to produce Notorious Big and Tupac. When I work on music, especially hip hop, I like it for it to be intergenerational, simply for the fact that you have people that don't listen to hip hop for the negative connotations. So listening to hip hop and soul, R&B, jazz were all major influences. So I would actually hire and speak with my musician friends who were able to provide a lot of sounds for me too, which to this day I have in my sound banks. Sound design, a lot of people just think it's adding music to videos and performances, but I like to look at it as the silent player, as the extra actor, so to speak. Even though you have a set staff and everybody working from projections to the other facets, sound just is the glue. It adds everything and it fills it out so we can hear more and feel more of the emotions that they're trying to convey in the story. Since the whole thing takes place in an elevator, there's limited movement and there won't be a lot of different scene settings. So when he's talking about past stories or things that are going to happen, it was really important to bring in like the environments, birds, people playing on the playground. Since it takes place in the inner city, it's a lot of influence from hip hop. So you hear like the muffled cars driving past with the music blasting, music you could hear from inside the elevator. A lot of those little nuances made it into there just to create the feeling of being almost semi-claustrophobic, but in an urban space. I think one of the key characteristics I did in the show is whenever there was action, you heard hip hop with drums. And then in all the other scenes, it was just more so acoustic instrumentation. So a little Fender Rhodes piano here, or maybe some acoustic guitar. I spent a lot of time freestyling, freestyle rapping, and freestyle music creating. I felt like a lot of the story was wrapped around Will interacting with several members of his family and community, and each one of them had a different attitude and persona. So in order to channel that, sometimes you have to not think so hard, so to speak. I feel like sometimes people focus too much and that allows them not to think in a broader range. So by allowing myself to freestyle and not really putting any constraints on when I was creating the music or talking, it really translated well into the piece, I believe. So the sound plot is interesting. Normally when I work at a theater, they provide me with what they have available, but I decided to go minimal with this since it was just in one place. So I decided to mic the floors, which to me was very different. And at first when I said that, I was like, what? You don't want to mic the actor? How are we gonna hear him? And I've worked with Justin Weeks before, who's the main character, Will. So I knew he could project and I knew he was able to. So I decided to take out a lot of the subwoofers, have a lot of tweeters on the side so that the audience can hear, like I said, the nuances before, like birds and playgrounds for when he's talking about those moments. And then the mic I put on the floor, which you couldn't see, it was hidden. And that way he could just speak and walk around and it would sound like he was in a compressed room. So it was through the sound plot, I was able to achieve that claustrophobic, we're in an elevator, we're having a conversation. working on music is sort of being like the silent player, even though you're not silent. So it was interesting because I thought the actor would just come in and work around my sound, but being I was there with projections and lights and videos, we literally have to time every moment. One of, I think, the arduous parts was probably trying to open the elevator door for Will, because you had to open the elevator door, time the music, the button pressing, the lights lit up on the keys. There was smoke coming into the elevator because one of the characters smokes a cigarette. So just to time all that together in one composition was probably the toughest part with manipulating my sound, because I would have to change it on the spot, which is not a problem. I enjoy working with sound and doing stuff like that on the fly. By the time I got to rehearsal and worked with the other designers, I realized I had to change a lot of the sequencing. So how long tracks were, or if I should fade it out earlier or blend it with their track in order to make it work. I'm a problem solver and I love solving problems, especially when it deals with audio. So just to come across, like I said before, matching up everybody's work in order to achieve the scene that we want, I think that was the best time. And to this day, I would be able to change stuff on the fly. So I would bring a MIDI controller, which would hook up to my audio program. I would be able to play out some keys or add extra instrumentation, depending on the mood. Like I said, there were several times where a character would light a cigarette, so I wanted something that sounded like a synth that was riding in the background to sound like smoke rising or things of that nature. But none of that was in my initial idea until I got into the room and saw how the movement of projections was on the screen, or how the actor paced themselves when they walked, which allowed me to go ahead and make changes on the spot. It's more about evoking the different emotions. For instance, if it's a suspenseful part, which Long Way Down had several moments where it was just anticipation of what's gonna happen. And it was through that I was able to put in some 808s, if you're familiar with the 808 sound, or some subsonic sounds, just to bring that sense of like urgency, or that it could be some type of potential threat. We had to put up a warning in the show for Long Way Down that there was gunshots used as the sound effects, because you don't want to startle anybody, but for me to put them in the distance to make them sound like you were there in the area where it happened a few blocks away. It's little nuances like that which help craft the whole experience. So whether from a music standpoint of view, where you're just trying to just change your vibrational level, or whether you're experiencing a production or a performance, I feel like music is very strong in creating that diaspora.